Just as a reminder, you can visit us at thoughtsexpanded.com. That's thoughtsexpanded.com to sign up for our amazing Patreon exclusives, listen directly, and share our latest episodes with your family and friends. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, this is Thoughts Expanded. I'm your host Rab, and I'm joined, as usual, by Jeff.
Hello.
And we are WikiList tonight. This is a new, uncharted territory for this podcast, I think.
It's true. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
all right?
No, we have not had a two-person episode, a two-host episode.
It's been us three every time where we canceled, I think.
Yeah, that seems right to me. So yeah, Wiki's out, and we are in, and it is a very late night episode for us.
And that's because we just watched the debate.
That's right. Yeah. Vance v. Walz, the vice presidential debate, and I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good debate as far as staying on topic, kind of. I don't know. I was expecting to come away with it with like some like good like one-liners or like some laughs about it, and I did not. Like it was pretty on topic for the most part, and pretty unapologetic on both parts too, I think. But
did you watch last election cycle's VP debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence?
I do not think I did.
That one was like actually kind of funny. Do you remember the fly moment when Mike Pence had a fly land in his face?
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments in that one. And I don't feel like this one had a lot of moments.
Gotcha, yeah.
It was kind of like, and they stated their opinions on things. I guess there's going to be plenty of stuff that's going to be clipped and put on Fox News or whatever, right?
Sure.
But I feel like it didn't have like memes. At least, I guess that remains to be seen, right? People are going to make memes of anything.
Yeah, true. No, but I think it was a very cable news clipable event. Yeah. They both had some hot takes in like very liberal and very conservative directions. And yeah.
Do you want to start with like, what do we think about the candidates overall? Because this is my first time watching either of them speak. I didn't bother to really at all. I mean, I imagine like it's possible I've overheard it or something like that, right? But I never sought it out until now.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you thought then. Yeah.
I feel like, Tim Walz is interesting because Joe Biden ran to Obama's right. So I've never experienced a president a vice president who's running to their candidate's left. I mean, I think Clinton had that, but I was too young to experience Clinton. So it's very interesting that Tim Walz does seem to be running to the current administration's left.
Yeah.
Like he's to drag people left. Like that's a new feeling for me. Obviously, like with Bernie Sanders, I felt it to some degree.
Right.
But that was like, hopeful. I'm not necessarily trying to say this is like a very pro Tim Walz stance because he could be saying something and not meaning it, obviously. And I feel like there's a lot of that going on both sides.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very interesting. And maybe even JD Vance is running to Trump's left. I don't know. Do you think he is?
No, I think in some ways he's running to Trump's right on some like family choice issues.
Right. I feel like he's running to Trump's extremes in all dimensions. And
yeah, well, that is true. Yeah.
I think some of that they tried to come across as left wing, like pro union or whatever, right? And it's just a matter of whether or not people actually buy into that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I feel like he's running to Trump's left to some degree. I mean, if he's running to both extremes, but more to the right, I could buy that argument.
Yeah. Yeah. And as to whether or not Walls is just talking or not, like whether he means any of it, I think the fact that he is doing quite a bit of it already in Minnesota is indication to me, at least, that he wants it to happen. Whether or not Kamala Harris actually wants it to happen, I don't know for sure, but I do think there's at least advocacy for those more like socialist ideas in the White House.
Ohio?
JD Vance, I think he grew up in Ohio. He grew up in Appalachia somewhere.
Where is he? He's a senator right now. Is he a senator from Ohio?
He is the senator from Ohio, yes.
Okay, so I personally feel like Tim Walz has a better chance of winning Minnesota and Ohio than JD Vance has of winning both of those. Like, I think Tim Walz, like, he really is, like, they are going to win Minnesota no matter what. And I think he actually could potentially, like, I don't think JD Vance was particularly popular in Ohio. So it would be really funny if he lost it.
I kind of feel like he will. I feel like the bullshit he's pulled in Springfield may be enough to swing people like away from him entirely. Like, I mean, have you been following along with that at all?
Yeah,
that's the whole.
I mean, I haven't been following too much like closely on what it actually has done, like the negative effects. I knew there were going to be some, but I haven't been hearing much about it. So if there's some.
There were bomb threats at schools and hospitals. There is a sheriff in a county who told his Republican constituents via Twitter to take note of the people with Kamala Harris signs in their yard to report them.
Oh, damn.
And then in turn, that sheriff's office was booted out of security duty for all voting posts in the county, which is interesting. Like, because that's like, yay, no cop presence there, but also like, I hope they're getting some kind of private security of some sort there, because like that's obviously an area of tension, you know. Yeah. Sorry, it was kind of a tangent. Where were we?
No worries. Do you want to get into notes?
Sure, yeah. I will say that I have followed along with a bit of Walz and a bit of Vance. I have watched some speeches on both sides, listened to them talk. And having done that, I was very interested to see how kind of shook Walz was at the beginning. Yeah. He kind of shook it off, but he was kind of a wreck at the beginning. He was very nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
And
he didn't have to do a national debate before. I mean,
yeah,
probably his first time.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Although at the same time, I think this is probably Vance's first time too. And
yeah, that's true.
He kind of, it was squirmy, but he kind of nailed it for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was on point the whole time. I felt him really annoying to listen to. But I think like if you took what he was saying and just like slowed it down 30% to play on a cable news station, just like used that for the next until the election. Like if you just keep playing one clip by clip, JD Vance, and you run nothing else on Fox News the whole time,
yeah,
you have enough stuff, and you make him sound really, really good.
Yeah. And it doesn't take anything to read in between the lines when hearing it in succession either, though.
Right.
You know, like especially the stuff about abortion and the gun control stuff. Like it's very easy to see like a clear plan in his mind of how he wants things to go if you listen to all of it. But yeah, individual bites, yeah, no, it sounds like great propaganda.
Yeah, it's too fast to really pick up as he's saying it. So it's almost like it's designed to get as many words in as possible so they can be replayed later at slower tempo, so you can actually understand. Or like even honestly, even the same tempo, just less like other contexts that you have to keep track of. Like in like one statement, like choosing a few of those sentences for some of the things he said, they're gonna really be able to fuel some sentiment, I think, to their side.
Yeah. On the flip side, I feel like for the maybe younger crowd, Walls had some great facial reactions that I think will be maybe memeable. Just some looks of dumbfoundedness, like, those are always good for a clip or two. So maybe that'll be his little uptick here on the.
JD Vance seemed to have one like disbelief face, and it was just like staring directly at Walls, like just intensely,
just like,
and not reacting at all, just like completely just staring at him. I mean, I guess that's kind of what you do when someone's saying something insane, but
right, yeah. I mean, what else do you listen to?
It's a strange. I mean, it struck me as strange for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get to notes. Because man, they really did cover a lot. Like, I took way more notes for this than I did for the presidential debate.
Sure.
Because like, and like comparing the two in my mind afterwards, like, it's so clear how out of his gourd Trump is and unable to like carry a conversation and a back and forth, because they really didn't cover much of anything in comparison. Like, really, yeah. I think I've got like almost 20 pages of notes, and these are like dense notes.
It's probably to their advantage if they don't do another debate, right? Like the Republicans' advantage if they just let that be the last one, so that people forget that Trump sounded frankly demented compared to Kamala Harris.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And they can just run, like you said, his quotes going forward as like talking points or whatever. And just maybe they'll get some cherry picked like quotes from Trump's insane recent public speeches at rallies. I don't know if you followed along with any of those or not, but he just seems like he's off his rocker right now. So, okay, well, notes wise, we're doing it.
Go for it.
I have Iran and Israel was the first thing they talked about.
Yeah, I wrote that too.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about their conversation there?
I don't have a lot written down. I have one note below it, which is, do people care about Iran getting a nuclear weapon or not? Because they highlighted that. And I care about that. I don't necessarily say that I'm like 100. I definitely don't support the U.S. policy towards Iran, but like the current U.S. policy towards Iran, and I think it's like too restrictive. But I also think that, like that's an issue that I'm aware of and care about. I don't know that that's super common to be like still following the Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think the recent Israel attacks are the reason, that they're even bringing it up.
Sure. Right.
And, so that, and it's like the way they posed this question to both of them was very much, this conversation is about Iran and what Iran is doing, and not Israel's response. Like, there was almost no conversation about Israel's response.
Sure. Yeah. They said nothing about anything Israel was doing in that whole thing, right? Like, defensive. Like, they talked about defensive capabilities when they were talking about the missile strike that just happened.
Which is insane, because I'm pretty sure, like, as we speak, maybe there are like boots on the ground Israel in Tehran, right?
Israel in Tehran?
Or in Lebanon, sorry. Lebanon. Yeah.
That's a lot different, though. I mean, Lebanon's on their border and Iran is not.
Sure.
So, if they invaded Tehran, that would be insane.
Right.
But, I mean, Lebanon is in a position to be bullied if especially it seems like European powers are participating in some capacity. I heard something about German and Italy Air Force being nearby. So, and like the U.S. has flight, what do they call those? The ships with a bunch of planes on them, carriers. They have those in the region as well. I don't know if they're doing anything actively. Like, I'm sure that it would be a bigger news story if the U.S. was actively dropping bombs or something like that. But
right.
There could be covert things that can happen with planes too.
That's pretty wild to think about. Like, that we've got, I guess that'd be like a battleship carrier or whatever, but in the Mediterranean, and I'm assuming that'd be like multiple. That's I don't know. That seems crazy to me because the Mediterranean's not like huge. That's like a presence in Europe. Like, it's a pretty like strong presence in like that region for us.
Sure. It definitely makes sense that the U.S. would have one in the Mediterranean at all times to some degree.
Sure.
Like,
Yes.
Just from a purely strategic perspective, but it obviously they're very close to Israel right now, and intentionally so.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of notes, honestly, on this section either. Other than noting like immediately how like timid and like stuttering Walls was. Like, he seemed like kind of freaked out at the beginning there.
Sure.
Yeah. But it seemed like once he stopped trying to think about his notes and just started speaking his like what he knew about the situation, like he seemed like he was pretty confident until one pretty major stumble later on,
where he said he was friends with a school shooter.
Okay, no, two. Yeah, because I remember that. I remember going, what? Huh?
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot on this section other than that. So
my next one is climate change. Is that what you have written down next?
Yeah, and a bit of Hurricane Helene stuff too. Yeah. What did you think about that conversation?
Honestly, I didn't write anything under this one. I just wrote it down.
Really?
Because I wanted to have less to write. If I decided to write something, but I didn't write a note on every single topic, to be honest with you. Maybe
I wrote.
I'll trigger my memory.
Yeah, I wrote a little bit about this, and I thought it was funny. Vance went first, and the question was like initially about like, oh, what about the climate changes happen, if it's happening, and is it causing hurricane to happen? And we just have this awful hurricane.
Actually, first getting into like do you trust experts talk? Right?
Correct. Yeah, this is the beginning of that conversation. Yes,
makes sense.
And Vance started out with basically just saying like, hurricane sucks, people died, thoughts and prayers. I know what it's like to be in Appalachia. That whole shtick. But then he went in to talk about how like Trump's plan for climate change is to, they want clean air and water. He would not say that climate change is a thing. Like, that was
sure
a thing the whole time. But their way of fighting climate change is to bring jobs back to America, because America will regulate it correctly, and therefore we will produce the least amount of pollution for the earth. Yeah, that was their plan.
It is strange. They're definitely making it clear that they want to increase energy production a lot.
Yes.
They both wanted to increase energy production, right? But they want to increase energy production a lot as a way, because they believe the U.S. is the leader in clean energy, which I doubt that's true.
Yeah.
Either way, it's very in line with their like nationalist wing. To say that the U.S. deserves it and nobody else does.
Right. Yeah.
Effectively. And I really wonder what they would actually do about that, because I don't think that they can. I mean, I don't think they can really affect China or India's energy policy right now. The U.S. has lost so much credibility in that department. And those countries are ultimately deciding for themselves. It's not like the U.S. is going to invade China or India over climate change. They might do it for other reasons, but
I mean, what could we do? Yeah, tariffs and sanctions, I guess.
But that stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
We're so intertwined with China, and we're very intertwined with India now too, because we're trying to get off of being intertwined with China
Mm-hmm.
and Indonesia and a bunch of other countries. So I'm sure that those things are going to start coming up, more and more.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it seemed like as far as how that all relates to climate change, like how we do anything about it was, if we invest in jobs, if we invest in manufacturing in the US, that will save the climate. But I mean, that was like pretty much the extent of what he was saying. There was no actual like talk about policy about, at least in that part, about like what their energy policy, or
Sure.
about, anything really. So just not a whole lot to go off of there.
What I would say is this is like the theme of JD Vance over this debate is sounding really good about something, but not really giving anything of substance.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tim Walz ultimately doesn't give anything of substance unless you believe, like what he did in Minnesota is true. I happen to believe some of that stuff has been successes there. And so it sounds very appealing. Whether it's actually going to work or not is another question. But I feel like there's probably a lot of people who just don't believe what they've done in Minnesota is true at all. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Sure.
they barely, like, neither one of them swung anyone on this issue.
Right. Yeah. Like on climate change, you mean?
Yeah, I guess that. And also just like the overall, like, trusting experts versus not trusting experts type thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
effectively, they both make claims that are trust our experts, right? Even though JD Vance doesn't explicitly say that,
Right. Well, he says
still
trust Trump,
exactly,
who is the expert. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess he does say that, but I do feel like people understand that it's not like just like a one party or one person dictatorship, especially with Trump in power. Like there's all kinds of different forces. I mean, they're bad forces, but they're they're in a, like they have an effect on him, and he's very passive, honestly. So I don't think trusting Trump really makes sense. It's like who he chooses to surround himself with, and I mean, I don't like what I see there for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know where I was going with that exactly.
Yeah. Well, I have a little bit about what Walz said, and I mean, of course, he opened with like the thoughts and prayers things too.
Sure.
But then he actually went through and explained a little bit about what response they were having to the hurricane, like in the moment. Like, okay, well, here are things we are doing actively right this second to help those people, and whatever the funds they're handing out. He talked a little bit about that. Then he talked about how Trump thinks that it's a joke. What's that?
Climate change, not hurricane.
Right. Climate change. Yeah, correct. And that Biden is the one that brought it all together after Trump left. As far as the nope, those notes make no sense. We're gonna skip that a little bit.
That their climate change policy sounds like makes people credible in it. Like, do you think that people believe in the Democrats for climate change?
I mean, I do agree with one thing Vance said, but in a different way than he said it, which is that you can't get up on stage in a debate and explain a 900-part bill,
sure,
and make it consumable,
sure,
and that's true, and I think that is true of like he did toss around the idea of the Green New Deal. So maybe that is what they're directly referencing, or whether it's more generally the or the Democratic climate plan. I don't know, but yeah, they didn't really get into any specifics other than yay clean energy, which is good, and also mentioning a couple times that hey, we are harvesting the most natural gas right now than we ever have. And
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
the natural gas,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like if that means we're consuming less oil, that sounds good.
Yeah.
If it means we're just consuming more natural gas, that makes it sound bad.
Yeah, I don't know that we are consuming less oil, but
Yeah.
I have not really thought about that. So,
It's a very interesting talking point. I mean, I also would assume that we are not consuming less oil, and if someone is claiming that they are, they've fudged the number somehow.
mhm.
But the like reliance on natural gas is a definite way of hiding, like saying that we should make more natural gas makes it very unclear whether you support like more energy production through fossil fuels or less.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That is more obscure than I think I had made it in my mind based on what he said. Yeah, that is very true. Um, I do think it's right. Walls talked a little bit about how like he talks to farmers in his state, and they're Republican, but they all agree that climate change is real. You know,
Right.
if like look, if you're not going to believe the science experts, at least listen to the, you know, common people experts, like the literal like people doing the job experts.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
That was some of the stuff that he talked about under immigration, right? Because did they intentionally switch focus to integration, or did it just naturally lead into it?
No, they did. Yeah, they swapped it over to borders and immigration right there.
Okay. I do have a note on this one. I feel like I had a chill go down my spine in a bad way when Tim Waltz says 1,500 extra border patrol agents. Like him
For
saying
sure.
that sounded really like soundbitey in a bad way.
Yeah, agreed.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely don't support that current border policy. I think it's too extreme by far.
Mhm. I agree.
I don't think the solution is to make it more extreme in any way. It should be made less extreme immediately. And I think that the extreme, like when I say extreme, I don't mean the consequences of it. I mean the way it's implemented.
Mhm.
The harshness with which it's implemented. I think that if a less harsh policy would simply lead to less offenses, and less problems with it overall for everybody involved.
Yeah,
I
more
don't think we're
humane
giving up
should
anything. Yeah,
be the goal. You know.
we're not losing anything by having a nice insurance policy, or sorry, immigration policy in my mind.
Yeah.
And so, I don't agree with either of them on that. I was wondering if maybe like Tim Waltz is kind of being baited to appear right wing to JD Vance, like on JD Vance's right on certain issues.
Mhm.
And this might be one of them.
My takeaway from that was that it made me feel as though maybe I'm incorrect about where people stand on the topic,
Yeah.
which is also a very ick moment.
I had that written down too. They definitely said, at least the anchors said, that more than half of people supported like
Mass deportation. Yeah.
Did they say forced or mass?
I don't know. Both words are scary though.
Either one is extreme to me.
Yeah.
But that was a surprising moment. I don't know that that's actually true. I kind of doubt that fact to some degree.
Yeah.
I feel like,
I mean, I'm sure it's true in one poll that was taken among, blah, 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 blah.
well, I think you have to rank how much people actually are willing to do about issues too. And I think like outside of Texas, no one's willing to do anything about that. There are crazy people in Texas who take matters into their own hands and like go out on the border and hunt people.
Yeah.
But there's but I think that the vast majority of people, like, even if they might, when asked, say that they support forced deportations, I mean, it definitely depends on how it's asked. And I feel like it doesn't necessarily mean that's the top of their mind issue,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that America will ever be so liberal again that we can avoid building a literal wall across the border eventually? Like I kind of almost like I almost have this like cyberpunk dystopian view in my head of like it being an inevitability that a border, like a literal border, is going to be built at some point.
Racism is an extremely attractive topic for both
Mm-hmm.
sides. Like
It is.
to play into people's racism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think increasingly so for the Democrats. I think the right wing is really like, I do think they become more extreme in rhetoric for sure. I don't know if they've actually really become that much more extreme in terms of what they're going to do. But that's kind of just me. I feel like they're not going to follow through on a lot of things they're saying they are. I think they're mostly just going to let corporations run the show like they always do. Obviously, pro-corporate means doing some awful things and making it look like those things are good for Republican voters, But I don't think they're going to follow through a lot on what they're, actually promising.
Yeah. I felt like there was a commonality between the two of and honestly it just feels like it's not exactly what came out of their mouths, but they were like agreeing with each other, like this concept of I don't hate you, but I don't want you to be in my country.
Sure.
This idea that it is okay to feel like you don't want these strangers in your country. There it didn't seem to be a whole lot of like Vance was strong to say a couple of times that quit demonizing them. They're not evil,
Right.
and Vance would agree, but then both of them seem to agree on that idea that it's okay to not want them here. You don't hate them, you love them. You want them to have a great life somewhere, not here.
Oh, man, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's certainly to the more extreme than I would say. That it was more extreme than I'm expecting. That I would ideally expect. From both parties.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. For me,
and
like
not in different directions, in the same direction is what I mean.
Yeah. I do have a lot of notes.
I wrote down here for a slight comedic detour. I wrote down that not answering the question is OP because they let you talk longer, thinking that you're going somewhere. It's like not only do you get to dodge the question, but you get to say whatever it is that you actually want to say for longer because they think you're going to bring it back around. And you don't have to. That's an OP tactic, I have to say.
Yeah, at some point in here, I'm flipping through to see if I can find it. I wrote, like, they've completely lost the plot. Like, they're not talking about anything anymore. Yeah, that was pretty frustrating. I have a note in here that CBS just seems like they're doing a similar thing to ABC last time, in that they're fact checking Vance about Trump stuff pretty like aggressively throughout the whole thing, like more aggressively than you would think a non-partisan moderator would check things. Maybe not, though. Like, maybe you really should be expecting a good fact check, but like they agreed no fact checking. I don't know. I do think there was a pretty clear bias with CBS towards Kamala.
Yeah, well, I actually think the opposite about this one. I feel like if you don't count watching it, if you just count watching the clips afterwards, I think that it's a huge, like, this debate couldn't have gone better for JD Vance in terms of like how the questions were phrased, how he responded to them. Because they don't show the same question. They don't usually include the question in the clip, right? So he got off zingers basically the whole time. So I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily, I guess, CBS's choice that he's doing that, but I at least feel like they let him get away with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it just feels like they were poking at him, but maybe they were like more softball pokes than I'm really giving him credit for. Like,
I wonder if they think that people want him to have some distance from Trump. Like, it seems like they were trying to make him seem like he had some distance somewhat. I mean, like,
Yeah.
CBS kept trying to basically pin Trump's stuff on him, and I feel like he was fairly good at shaking it off.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't necessarily say, like, President Trump wants to do this, President Trump wants to do that. I mean, he talked about what happened during the Trump presidency, but
Yeah.
he tried to disown, like, I mean, not disown him. Obviously, he was, you know, he was certainly saying that he followed Trump, and he didn't say anything explicitly bad against him, right? But it's like it felt like he was able to talk people off a ledge in a way.
Sure.
Like people who believe that Trump is like absolutely insane, which I mean, I don't think that he talked me off that ledge, but you know, I do think that I'm sure there's some people out there who saw that and thought, okay, you know, if there's this guy as the VP and it's possible Trump could die, like maybe we want somebody competent, and you know, but I don't know that he will be competent. Just saying he gave that perception.
Yeah, true. The I did like that Walls initiated the conversation about the immigration bill being shut down by Trump during his presidency.
I didn't follow that very well.
I mean, because it is true, like there was a bipartisan bill that, you know, if you believe the reports that the Democrats are putting out, was well liked by, you know, the people that matter.
People had him shut down at the last second because he wanted to run on immigration.
Right. Yeah.
I doubt that policy would have been good.
Sure. No, I'm sure it wouldn't have been. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I feel like in general, when I see somebody, like I've seen somebody with a yard sign that said Republican veteran for Harris Walls, and to me that turns me off of them more than it turns me on to them.
Sure.
Like the fact that people can switch sides and support them still. Certain people, at least, right? I mean, not to disavow anybody for certain political beliefs or whatever, but it's just like it seems like it disappoints me how much they're able to pick people off from the right.
Yeah. And I think that was a major theme throughout the whole night, was this idea of saying, hey, we are nice and we are positive and we are trying to do good things.
Right.
And we know that's you too. And it doesn't matter if you've traditionally been on the right. It's okay. Look, obviously these people are not those things about you, you know. It's okay to come on over. Yeah, there were several kind of mentions of that.
Are we still sort of on immigration? Because I feel like Walls did give an honest, he did really, to me, seem honestly upset about how extreme our policy is today.
Yes.
Whether or not he is in the position to do anything about it is another question. I could seriously see it basically just tightening, even if Harris and Walls won, right?
Yeah.
But he, to me, seems like he truly did believe that, whether or not he thinks he can do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, he said several times, you know, I mentioned this earlier, quit demonizing them.
Right.
You know, it's unnecessary. They're just people who are here legally, like, especially about the people in Springfield, right. You know, they're here, they may not be American citizens yet, but I mean, they're here legally, you know, give them a break.
Or even if they're here illegally, they've become integral parts of a community here.
Sure. Yeah. And from what I have read and heard, and I have like put some time into looking into it, like it seems like these are people that were wanted by the community and that are benefiting, are benefits to the community. It seems like it's a good situation there that has just been like thrown into this weird spotlight out of just a total lie. Like, um, yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I'm sure there are some truly violent cases where people deserve, prison time for things they've done as illegal immigrants, but that's true of all segments of the population.
Sure.
And I feel like the ones for them are blown out of proportion. The ones for us are not. They're minimized. And so that is effectively what drives all of that policy from both sides. It's that core, like, tenet of racism.
Yeah.
But he did certainly seem to be against that.
Yeah.
I'll give him that for sure. Okay, so I think do we want to kind of move over some things faster potentially?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Man, I really they really did cover a lot of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
The economy was next. Do you have anything?
Do people believe they were economically better under Trump? I actually don't know.
Yeah.
And as a follow-on question, I wrote later on in my notes, did Trump just bribe people to remember him as economically beneficial? Like, because at the very end of Trump, there was COVID bucks.
Yeah.
And there was economy stimuluses out the wazoo.
I swear to you that they tried at one point to get Trump's face printed on the checks that were sent out. I swear that's true. Like, I'm not going to do any research on it, but
I don't care whether it's true or not. It seems true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. Yeah. No, I don't think people believe that's true at all, that our economy was like some huge boom in 2019. Like inflation was still huge at that point. Gas was still like almost $4 at times during that period.
That period, for sure. The beginning of Trump's, like the vast majority of his rule was a mess. And then election season and right after is when it turned around for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, are they trying to do some like psyop planting ideas in people's heads that it was better than it was? Because they are making a lot of callbacks to when it was Trump in office, and it seems like nostalgia is a major one of their like talking points.
Yeah. So I've said that before, but I think this election will come down to whether or not people see the current stuff as bad, or if they remember Trump and see it as worse, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's worse or not is not part of that equation. It's do people see what is here is worse, or do they see what's in the past is worse? And I would be surprised if people look back on that era with nostalgia. Like I think it felt like everybody was insane then. Like
insane? Is that
Trump presidency? Yeah. Right after he was elected, it felt like everybody was insane. Like he caused people to go collectively insane. And
I mean, I went literally insane for a short period of time. Yeah, that really happened. It's crazy.
Sure.
So, yeah, but I mean, clearly my dad thinks fondly of that time period,
Right.
But it's got to be a very small portion of the demographic out there, like that's available, who feel that way.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you one way or the other. If I knew that, I would know who would win.
Yeah.
But I truly don't know what other people believe. I mean, I feel like things are bad now, and they were bad then, except for one little blip. But that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was real shit for me the whole time period.
I wrote down illegal guns. I thought that was a pretty funny turn of phrase. I don't remember who said it. But,
I think it was actually the hosts, maybe.
Really? Oh, wow.
Like, let's take the conversation to the conversation, or let's go to the conversation of illegal guns. Or maybe it was Walls who said it. It was at the very like start of the conversation. I remember that much.
Hang on, I'm just testing stop to somebody who's trying to get me to donate based on this debate. That's an important diversion. I can't have that.
I know. You know,
I wrote down in my notes what causes school shootings. I mean, I know that's a pretty deep topic, but
yeah,
like that was a major question. Like with Walls coming down the sides of like, it is the guns, and JD Vance coming on the side of, I don't know exactly, that we just need more security. Like it doesn't matter what causes
yeah.
it. Like he didn't even try to pin that on something else, really.
No, like he squirmed around the conversation about like the red flag, and the background check verifications.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there was nothing other than it just increased security. That's literally all I have here for him. Right. Like I have everything he said, but all of it was just him repeating that how bad it is for children right now. Like I have kids too. They're scared to go to school too.
And that's true. I think people do resonate with that, but like,
yeah.
Do those people think it's the guns, or do they think it's, I mean, question mark. Like, I feel like you can only buy into question mark for so long, right? If you don't specifically name a cause and the other side is, like, I think that does do something. Now, once again, whether the Harris administration would follow through on anything actually good in that area, questionable. Maybe. Yeah. I would probably rate it better than their chances of doing anything positive about climate change.
Sure.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Walls, I feel like Walls's gun control policy stuff was pretty much on par with what I expect the Democrats to say at this point. You know, like, hey, we don't need machine guns and assault rifles. Right. You know, we don't. You know, we do need.
He really did dance around it too, I think. At least in my mind, I feel like he kind of said some words that made you really think that he was for some specific policies. Like they invoked those ideas in your head of like him wanting to actually take people's guns away. But I don't think he actually like said those 4 words, right?
Yeah. No, and I mean, I don't think. I mean, he seems like a gun guy to me.
Sure.
Anyway. You know, like I don't think he wants to take anybody's guns from them, you know.
Right.
I do like when there was a point in time where Vance was kind of digging into the idea that like, oh, it's people with mental health issues that are a problem.
Right.
It's not the guns, it's our mental health situation. And talking about how dangerous, you know, people from mental health institutes are, which is somehow like related to the immigration thing for them. I don't understand that, how they think that like, they're just, first of all, I think it's crazy to think that these countries have these like stocked full insane asylums in 2024. Like, I don't think there's really a whole lot of insane asylums out there anymore.
Mental health stuff was definitely kind of icky on both parts, honestly.
Yeah. Although I do like, I wrote down that he said that Walz said we don't need to stigmatize mental health.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is good.
Note that, yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, that may be the best you can do in that conversation. I don't know. I'd certainly, I mean, I can't say that I would want to debate JD Vance. I would probably do a much, 100 times worse than him. Sure. I mean, that could just be like kind of a stumble. I just felt like, I didn't really get the sincerity as much there, I guess.
I did write down that Vance said, Christ have mercy, when referencing the fact that Walz's kid had witnessed a shooting event.
Yeah.
But Christ have mercy. And then went on to
reaction. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's either going to come out that like probably the right wing is going to try to find some way to spin that as not true. But I'm going to have no idea what's actually true or false because it's impossible to determine that anymore.
Sure.
And it's kind of one of those facts that doesn't really matter, but both sides get to completely claim it. Like I'm sure he wouldn't say that unless he had some credible way of backing it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wouldn't just lie about that completely. But
Sure.
I,
Yeah.
I, would, I see it
Well,
as one of those sides things where, yeah. Do you
I
think she
mean,
had an accident?
well, no, I mean, we skipped over the part where they were talking about whether or not they are credible at all, either of
Right,
them.
right. That's true.
You know, there's a whole conversation about Walls trying to say that he was at Tiananmen Square when
Oh yeah,
that
that was
event
kind of
was taking
insane. I
place.
didn't understand what was going on with that.
Just before the debate, I read an article saying that we might hear about Tiananmen Square, and I was like, "What? What's going on?" But I guess
Yeah.
at some point he had said, "Oh, I was at the Tiananmen Square event." I mean, which he was there in that same year, but not the same month.
Yeah.
You know, so he
Yeah.
wasn't at the actual event. But
I heard something weird a few months ago about him having his wedding intentionally on the same day as Tiananmen Square. Like I want to see if that's true or not, real quick.
interesting.
At least according to
Huh.
Google.
Yeah. But I mean, it seemed like, first of all, he did not admit that it was not true outright, which is ridiculous, man, because he did skirt around the idea and really give the impression of him saying, you know, like, look, I'm not going to say whether that's true or not, but I will say that I'm a man of character. And I, you know, regardless of whether or not that is true, I do good things in the community and people love me and people have continued to vote
Yeah.
for me since I've said it. He's basically saying, okay, I told a tall tale.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't think it was verifiable, and then somebody verified it. You know, just leave it alone. It's just a tall tale. It doesn't matter.
Sure. Well, yeah, apparently it is true that he had his wedding on the same day as the anniversary of Tiananmen Square, which is odd. That is, if that was on purpose, that is deranged behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's on accident, maybe, but I mean, bringing up this connection makes it seem like it was on purpose. So maybe they're trying to smear him with that again.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And that's a little weird.
The Times of India reports it as true. I didn't look into other sources. Maybe the Times of India is a super right-wing paper. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Times of India.
Incredibly claiming that that it's true.
And the Vance question during that time of, hey, are you even credible, was about how Vance, you know, just said that he thought Trump was Hitler and blah, blah, he hated Trump. Right. But I mean, his answer was, I don't think it was honest, but I think it was exactly what he should have said. It was just like, I was wrong about Trump. He was elected and I changed my mind, you know? And there was a point later on, another point where Waltz basically said the same thing about something else, about changing his mind, you know? But
yeah, I think it's good to admit when you're wrong and want to change your mind. And I think that's like, it makes them both look good to do that. I think that, you know, Vance, even by saying that he tried it on that Trump on that issue, I feel like if you really wanted to, you could spin what he said as being somewhat against Trump. And like, I wonder if this wasn't like his, at least in his mind, shot at a 2024 presidential run, because that election won't have Trump win or lose. You know, whether Trump
2028.
Oh yeah, sorry, 2028.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a little bit, I guess, too soon, unless Trump just kicks it for JD Vance to become president in this election. But in 2028, I wonder if because I mean, Trump certainly has to stop at that point, you would think.
Oh yeah, there's no way Trump keeps going. Yeah, there's no way. And yeah, I'm sure that is on JD Vance's trajectory. Like that's where he wants to go. That's on his 10-year plan, you know.
So I wonder, that's why I wonder if he wants people to think, like, if this was like almost like if this was bought and paid for, I'm not saying that it necessarily was, but it would seem to me like the point of it was to make JD Vance look good as an individual and not necessarily to advance Trump's side at all.
Like, that's an interesting conspiracy theory.
But just basically make JD Vance seem credible with an existing movement, not to try to convert people over to it.
You know, I was watching a little bit before the show started, and I was watching on the PBS YouTube channel, and they had something talking about. It was so pertinent to what we were just saying. What were we just talking about?
Whether or not he actually would disavow Trump in the past.
Nah, it's gone. We'll let it go. Let's see. Housing. Did you have anything for housing?
No. I think I just maybe want to unplug my internet connection.
Oh, the housing part. Yeah.
That's my next note.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. This is where I wrote convo derailed. All blame. Yeah. This is that part where it just felt like it really fell apart for a minute there. And I think maybe this was before the first break, or no, this was after the first break. But I do want to know, like, with Trump's plan, and I don't think Trump really has a plan.
Sure.
Like, I feel like they're just talking nonsense constantly. But for what they've said about the plan with the whole, like, taking over national land.
Yeah. And I have some stuff about this.
Yeah. Well, I do have questions about that because that sounds kind of crazy. But I know that's baked into the Project 2025 stuff, but it felt like Vance was essentially agreeing with that part of the bill.
So I have personal experience with it, though. Have you heard about what's happening in Florida with that?
I have not.
They tried to seize 2 national parks. Ron DeSantis did. He wanted to convert one into a golf course, and he wanted to build a huge hotel on one. Now, they were still going to be owned by the National Park Service. But in my mind, I feel like it's just like basically a boondoggle to like temporarily increase development in a fake way. But like the National Park Service will never be able to actually complete those projects with the resources they have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or they complete them and they fail and they sell for a really cheap price too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You
They
know,
sell them off because they know they can't maintain them anymore because
right.
they don't have the resources to maintain a golf course. And when then they probably would start doing things like prioritizing, good plumbing and all those, resources they have to gather to maintain the national parks to go to the place where rich people go,
Oh, that's so maddening to think about.
I think thankfully they did reverse that. Like DeSantis walked it back after public outrage, is how I last heard. Maybe there's some new news. I'm not sure. I'll definitely keep you posted if I hear anything.
Yeah, please do, because that is wild. And that really does sound like exactly what they want to do. They want to take the public land, they have oil or natural gas under it, and do that with it. And like I get reservation vibes when they say that.
For sure.
Like round up the poor and put them on this land.
Well, there's a significant amount of Native American land still in existence, right? Like in Oklahoma and stuff. Like there are places, like if you really made a true map of the U.S. and like what is sovereign territory, there's like a whole lot of dots and big patches still in the U.S. that are like technically by our own legal system still where Native American tribes are sovereign. Now, whether that's actually true or not is another question. Like, are they really sovereign? I would probably say no. I think that they're under the thumb of the U.S. government quite a bit. But I also think that they, like, at least legally, they are, right? And to me, I worry that he's including that in national lands, that he actually wants to do like Indian removal. That would be pretty wild to bring that back.
Wow, that would be wild. Yeah. Because that's not where my mind went, but that also reservation related. No,
but you can also claim they're like illegal immigrants to some degree, like especially if they don't have paperwork and stuff. Because a lot of immigrants from South America are indigenous, so it's like depending on the color of their skin, can really get mixed into those populations. And I mean, there's also a lot of actual mixed families in those, two ethnicities.
Sure.
As well.
Crazy. Anything for healthcare?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
do people actually believe that Kamala Harris can send you to jail for whatever? Because I think that was said by J.D. Vance at some point. He said basically, like, I think it was like under Facebook censorship or something.
Oh yeah, what was that whole topic about? Like he brought that up a couple times, like apropos of nothing, and during other topics, like this idea of like Democrats censoring shit. What was that about? Do you know? I don't know either.
I mean, maybe it's just like the general right wing way, or maybe it's a pre-insurance policy on like being able to claim this election was rigged if they lose.
Oh yeah, which was another talking point at one point. Yeah, which I do think is absolutely true. Yeah,
I mean, we're nearly at an hour. I definitely want to like I'm not. We can go for a little while longer. I just I want to make sure we're conscious of getting through all the topics.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine to go a little bit longer too, because I do think this is interesting. But I think we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
my notes definitely become a lot more off topic because I think their conversations were too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I put at one point that it kind of felt both of them were just dropping nostalgia bombs, and it was all when they were talking about the Affordable Care Act, and it just felt like the 2016 election conversation all over again. You know. About whether the ACA is worth saving or not. Yeah. Although I do think the revisionist stuff about Trump somehow always working to make the Affordable Care Act something better, not trying to get rid of it, just trying to improve upon it. I think that
does not strike me as true, but it definitely could strike some people as true. I wouldn't be that surprised.
Sure. Yeah. The child care crisis, paid leave. Yeah. I thought it was interesting they spent so much time talking about it. I think it is important, don't get me wrong. That felt like maybe a softball to Vance to give him some good talking points, because it seems like Vance has this, like I mentioned, that he is on the far right of some things with Trump. And I think the family stuff is in particular one of those things. Yeah. Like his thing is everybody wants babies. There needs to be more babies. Everybody should be having babies, you know?
So this question was basically like a way to let him sneak this in his agenda, because it lets him talk about abortion without actually saying the word abortion. Like it basically lets him say like, I want people's families to grow and I want them to families to do better. And make it seem like he's actually going to do something for families.
Yeah.
Was there a hard cut at some point when he was talking? I have it written down in my notes that I observed, at least on PBS YouTube, a hard cut. I don't know if it was my stream just catching up, but it seemed like they actually cut like 3 or 4 seconds of what he was saying.
Oh, yes, I did notice. I think it was right around here too. I did notice it felt like there was a cut. It'll be interesting to see what other people on the internet say about that. I did want to mention that to you, but I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah. That was very strange. And it was during, I wish I could remember what he was talking about, because I do think it was kind of a sensitive topic in some way. But it might have been when they were talking about January 6th.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I have it kind of lumped in with economics, and I have it also a note that says, do they put economics last because people are sleepy?
Interesting. I didn't really hear a whole lot during the January 6th stuff that was worth talking about, because I feel like it's just beating a dead horse at that point.
Yeah.
I feel like, but I would like to
like the right wing does not speak to me at all about January 6th. Like I don't care what they have to say about it at all. But I feel like the Democrats only ever make it sound like it was a lot cooler than it was.
Yeah.
Like they make it sound like something that could actually have a chance of
succeeding somehow. Yeah.
Like in a way the politicians don't want.
Right. And it wasn't just like this a pretty outlandish event.
Yeah.
That like was totally preventable but wouldn't have it wasn't going to change anything.
I don't necessarily, I won't say that the government did January 6th, and I won't say they did 9/11, but I would say that definitely the idea that they did January 6th on purpose, completely orchestrated, to me seems more realistic than the idea that they would blow up the Twin Towers on purpose. But I mean, both could be true, both could be false. I don't know.
In your mind, would it be more likely a Democratic conspiracy or a Republican conspiracy?
You know, that I actually don't know.
Yeah, because I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably if the fact that it happened means that it's both.
Both in some way, yeah.
To happen.
Yeah.
And, to me, it seems, Obviously, I'm sure there's some of those things, like the man tasering his balls. They probably didn't do that on purpose, but like at least like where they were let in and their route that they took, I think they were probably like somewhat guided, to do certain things and put people in certain places where they can be photo ops. It seems kind of convenient to me in a way.
Yeah. And then I just have the closing stuff. And did you have anything you want to say about the closing? Because I would like to close out the episode with dramatic readings of my interpretations of both of the closing statements.
I think that sounds a great way to close out. So I'll just read my last 2 notes. How about that?
Okay.
I said it's nice when CBS wishes me night night, because they said a good night, and I appreciated that.
Thank you, CBS. Yeah.
And I also wrote, does Donald Trump presidency lead us meaningfully closer towards nuclear annihilation? Which obviously is a big question. That could probably be its own episode.
Yeah, that could be its own episode.
Maybe we should pick Wiggy's brain on that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should get into it now.
Yeah, I think we should wait and see if he ever actually listens to this episode. And then if he does, we can reward him by letting him do a rant about his opinion on that sometime.
Yeah. I feel like it would be an interesting topic, at least, to discuss. Because, I mean, there's lots of angles to attack it from, right? There's like,
sure.
I won't get into it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Go for it.
Okay. I'll probably do a really bad job of this, but both of them were just delivered in very opposite and interesting ways. So the first closing statement was from Walls. Kamala. Yeah, this was my dramatic interpretation of the vibes they were trying to give off.
Right. So you wrote
during the closing statements,
trying to sound like them effectively, like how you perceive them.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Kamala is doing good for a reason. Optimism is high, baby. Keep it good. Trump scary. Kamala happy. You want happy.
Mm-hmm.
Come get happy. Vote us. Thank you.
Yeah, basically.
That was Walls's closing statement. Vance's closing statement is, first of all, divergent about the energy thing, which was like so many topics ago, but I'm not going to get to that. But it's cold. That is hard. Your life is hard. Drugs are bad. Dim's always bad. Kamala will doom us. Us pretty... The U.S. is pretty, but poor. Poor, kind souls. Democrats drinking your blood. We need change. We need the same. Good luck out there, people. He basically ended his speech by saying, good luck out there. It's bad. But yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us.
That was a good capstone for sure. That was a good capstone on the episode.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us for a duo episode of Thoughts Expanded.
Yeah, join our Discord and tell us that we must bring Wiggy next time so that we can show that to him so he'll actually come.
Okay.
Say positive.
Do that, please. Yeah, say good things this time. All right. Goodbye, everybody.